Okay. So this is going to be the beginning of my podcast journey. This is a project that I've been thinking about for a long time. I think it's a bit needed. There's a lot of stuff that we can discuss and go through that no one's really touching at the moment. And I have Sean Gares. So thank you very much for joining me on episode 1, Sean. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You know what they say, save the best for first.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah, and this, I mean, one of the topics which I feel is so understated, or really, I feel as though there's a lot of mystery behind it, it's very enigmatic, is in-game leading. And so who better than you to start us off with that? So let's, first of all, give me your definition. How would you define what, the responsibilities and what is an in-game leader really?
Yeah, so that's like a very loaded question because I think it's different to everyone. What it's always been to me was, outside of like the couple weeks, Peacemaker was the coach on Misfits and he did a lot of like addition of executes and stuff like that. In-game leading for me has been far more than what just the term in-game leading would entail, like leading in the game. You actually have to find the strats, you have to innovate, you have to research your opponents. If the team isn't functioning well, you have to message all the players. You're an out-of-game leader. If people make mistakes, you're often the one correcting them. So typically, your mood isn't at the same level as your teammates, like you're the guy that's constantly having to critique people and stuff like that on your team. So in-game leading definitely takes its toll on you because it's not only a lot of work, but it's a lot of work during practice time that will ultimately probably put you in a negative mood unless you're just winning all the time. Even if you're winning all the time, I'm the type of in-game leader where I will still find things wrong in a round where, my team flawlessly won with like 0 people dying. I'll be like, yeah, we shouldn't have got that 3rd kill. Like we were way too aggressive. We should have done this and this wrong, like differently. So it definitely takes its toll on you over time. And it's part of the reason why I'm taking a small break right now. If anything, is just because it's definitely taxing, especially without a coach. But like to answer your question fully, there are in-game leaders, that just sign on and they play like a player. They have a coach that really like outlines and hammers through game plans, innovates for them, creates new strats. They have analysts looking at other teams. Now, obviously you can't do this coming up from the lower leagues. Like it's impossible to do that. And it's even difficult to find an org that's willing to spend the money to do that because it's a very costly thing to hire 2 people that aren't even in the server. Like it's hard to convince orgs to do those kind of things. So outside of like those special people that are capable of doing that, I know a couple pro teams that might operate on those levels. Like it's I feel like maybe somewhere in between my method and their method where you have a coach that's innovating with you, the in-game leader. Like I think that's something that Cloud9's working with right now is probably the best way to go about it.
Right. So yeah, I guess this is one of the reasons why there's so much mystery surrounding it in the sense that it's so very dynamic and everybody, as you say, you kind of can get out what you put in so much with this. And so that's, I guess something that we'll really be exploring as we sort of try to break down some of the ideas behind this. Because as you say, I think, talking about coaching and sort of the men outside of the server who are sort of on the team, the 6th and 7th and maybe 8th men that might be involved is also a really interesting talking point. But, first of all, having sort of defines sort of loosely kind of what you're expected to do or what you, the kind of person it takes to be an in-game leader. How would you sort of, what are the qualities, the most basic qualities that you would say an individual would need to think about getting into that role? Or, what would they have to develop to make a good in-game leader? What qualities as a human being do you need?
In my opinion, I think you need like pretty strong work ethic, right? I think work ethic is probably the most important thing. Persistence, even when you lose, you still have the drive to sign on and get better. And the ability to communicate, which is honestly something that I had to learn through my early stages of CS. I didn't deal with it perfectly in the early stages of Cloud9. And it's something I learned about even in Cloud9. You know, it's always just a work in progress. You always have to keep building. You have to realize, you know, when you enter any room, you don't want to be the smartest person in that room. And if you are, you want to find a different room kind of thing. And that's how I feel about in-game leading. If you ever feel like you're the best in-game leader, you're wrong. Like, you always have to keep working, because there's 100 other people that you've never heard of that are busting their ass, you know, constantly watching demos, doing this and that are going to make their way up. And I think that's a key aspect of being an in-game leader, is always being ready to innovate in certain ways. And oftentimes you find yourself, you know, it's kind of like how innovations with cars are in like modern society, you know, like they all still have pretty much like 4 wheels and they look relatively close to the same, but there's improvements and like inefficiency and just those small improvements that you keep working on. You don't need to like revolutionize the game every time you play, but you have to keep working at becoming more and more efficient. And I think that's probably the most important aspect of being an in-game leader, along with the communication.
Okay, and I also have to say, I do love that you used sort of a car analogy, because I thought of one earlier, so I'm going to be putting one of my own in there, so we'll have a little theme when it comes to that. But I very much agree, and as we start to sort of, you know, break down some of those ideas and get into sort of the philosophies around strategy and so on, I think it really does benefit us to, for the viewers' sake, to sort of define some of these sort of basic ideas that get tossed around a lot, like whenever we mention strategy and tactics, obviously that is sort of at the core of leading a team, of course, but I do see those terms misused. So how would you define the difference between strategy and tactics, or the macro and micro elements of the game?
Well, I think of strategy, I kind of use the two interchangeably, to be honest. Like I don't really differentiate between the two. I do think that there is a difference, but as an in-game leader, I've never really cared to really differentiate between the two. The macro and micro thing is super important. So I always there are a lot of micro aspects that I focus on, like as far as pathing and stuff like that, leading into bomb sites, or, you know, you have a teammate, say even yesterday, I was playing this online tournament that I was streaming, and my teammate Tens was like a young player. He's like, I want to get this 1-on-1A on Mirage. Like he just wants to walk out as a lurker and kill a guy. And that's micro, right? Like he wants to walk out and he wants to kill that guy. And I take his idea as an in-game leader and I make it into a macro idea. I said, wait, let us draw the connector guy. Because typically a CT setup, you know, would be 1A, 1 connector, 1 window, 1 cat, 1 B. And even if they're not in that setup, you can filter them into that setup by running default. But I'm like, wait, don't do that yet. Let me filter the cat guy or the connector guy towards connector, and let us throw some shit at mid to do that for you. He said, okay. So, you know, we throw top mid smoke, we molly connector, we flash off connector. The connector one-way smoke comes down. Obviously, it's like the counter every time that T takes mid. So, you know, the connector guy's looking over that smoke. So I'm like, okay, now's your chance, go. And he gets his 1-on-1, you know. So I think there's place obviously for micro and macro, but I think it's the in-game leader's job to take the micro things that players like doing and make them into macro things. If you like holding quad on cash, you know, like what's a good pop flash that your teammate can throw for you? Like that is what makes that micro decision of playing quad into a better macro decision for the team. Or what can you do if they take mid? You know, like how are you going to use your utility? Are you going to leave the site? Are you going to smoke a main the second the other team takes mid and flash over Z? So I think obviously like in anything, micro macro is super important, but you can't get lost in one or the other, in my opinion. Like you can't only focus about micro play. You can't only focus about macro play. You have to be somewhere in between.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's really interesting because I think there are some really clear examples in professional play of teams that are very sort of macro oriented. And I think from that perspective, you could perhaps describe a team like in MSL's teams in the past potentially. I'm not sure if you would agree with me there, but it would always seem to me that the focus was always around the kind of big strategy of the round. We're always trying to get to this result, as opposed to sort of trying to incorporate some of or leveraging some of your individuals a little bit more by sort of as a leader, sort of enabling them on the fly, which is exactly what you're talking about there, which is very difficult, very, very difficult to do. That takes a lot of understanding of the game and very quick thinking. But moving slightly away from that, if you're in this position as an in-game leader, we often see these transfers. An in-game leader moves to this team or that team, and we always hear people saying, okay, now they have to incorporate this new system. They have to incorporate, let's say, a Stanislaw system or MSL system, or whichever leader it might be. So how does it look like to construct a game plan for a team? Like, where do you start? What's the minimum that you need to be comfortable when you sit down, like on your gaming chair with your 4 teammates on a stage at LAN, and you've managed to, you've got your home map? What does it take to have a game plan and feel comfortable within it?
So I think to feel comfortable in my chair, I don't necessarily need a full game plan, but I need my 4 teammates to understand rotations of every map on the same level that I understand it on. So like, I always point to Mirage, right? Like, you're doing a mid default on Mirage and you pick the cat player, the guy that jumps the cat. Like, what's happening right then? Is window smoked? No. Okay, so maybe the window guy stays around window. You still have a guy connect. You still have a guy A. You still have a guy B. Now, what happens when you smoke window? When you smoke window, there's a chance, pretty likely, that window player is going to move towards B, especially if you as T's put pressure on B. You're going to force that second guy towards B. So like, I want everyone on my team to understand that. So that way, when that pick goes down, my upper B lurker immediately takes advantage of that by like smoking the balcony, mulling van, making the B player feel pressure and lose information. He asked for a rotate, but in the meantime, I want my other players at A to know that I'm thinking, let's hit the A bomb site. It's like, I don't even need a game plan. I just need my players to understand rotations properly. And that's what's honestly like the hardest thing to communicate amongst like me to players that I play with, is that, because there's a million different scenarios that you would have to like navigate through. There's ones that are really common, like the one I just said. But there's a million different scenarios. As far as like a game plan, so I mean, I think having a pistol round, having a first gun round, having your teammates understand what the other team likes doing for ecos, that way you can like understand how to mitigate your damage done to you on your, when the other team is on eco, as well as, like how do they like playing when they have like CZs and Deagles. So literally plan out maybe for the first 7 rounds of a half. And then from there, I like to just play on feel. Like, I don't think planning 10, 12, even a whole half deep, I think that's too much, because literally something can happen in the middle of that half or even at the start that just throws a total wrench in everything. Maybe some players playing a different spot. Maybe they're testing out new nade timings. Maybe like this guy's opping instead of that guy, like as their secondary opper. So I think planning really deep can be dangerous, because then your team starts to feel like the game plan is losing them the game instead of them. And once that happens, you've already lost because they feel defeated.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love that. There's a lot of really cool points there. That last one as well, I always think of, to me, the most extreme example of not going too deep, but almost even the opposite, even maybe playing a little bit too shallow, but it just works for them because everyone knows the game so well and each other so well, is Fnatic. Just one of these teams that's so strong at mid-rounding. Would you agree with that? That they would be a good example of a team that's super comfortable just figuring it out by themselves. And then, as you said, you don't have to micromanage those players. They're just so incredibly autonomous, but they react to each other very well.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always loved Fnatic for that exact reason. So like, they're the epitome of what I said when like they can sit down without a game plan because they all understand rotations on the same level. So like they understand like what every kill means and how each player is just going to react without even probably communicating. Like that, I've heard people sit next to Fnatic and like they don't really talk that much. It's because they just understand what kills mean and where the next guys are going to be, and that's all based off of rotations. So I think that is honestly the biggest part of CS. When people ask me like what they need to learn as an indie leader, I always tell them just literally figure out in your head what the rotations for every map is going to be. I'm not going to tell you. It's going to take you a lot of work, but that is what's going to define your success. And I think that's why, teams like North, if you look on the other side, you brought up North earlier. That's why teams like North struggle, is because they don't play based on rotations a lot of times. Like you said, they play very rigid, and I don't know how they've been playing lately, to be honest. I haven't really been watching them. But like when we beat them at the Odense finals, in group play, everyone thought it was like a huge upset because they were so goddamn good on Cobble. They might have been like the best team in the world on Cobble when we beat them on it. But they were the best team in the world because they had set strats at the same exact time in the round for like a mid rush, a drop rush, an upper B rush, and a fast A default, right? And you can't anti-strat all of those things at the same time, but you can kind of position yourselves in certain spots to like adapt accordingly, I guess. And just the fact that they're that rigid makes, the possibility of someone like me or an analyst or a coach finding like a solution to beating them. Whereas when you play a team like Fnatic, who, depending on which guy they kill and how they kill him, or like what nades they've seen, I don't know the inner workings of what the fuck they're thinking. Like they think some crazy things sometimes, man. Like they take duels that I could have never predicted, but they all know that they're going to take that duel. I feel like when they take it.
Yeah, they're somehow on this. They found a page in the book that no one else has found, and they're all just on that somehow. It's very, very crazy. But to kind of backtrack a little bit here, and we sort of looked there at teams that have a very good understanding of rotations, and they're all on the same page and can leverage themselves individually in mid round really effectively, and sort of like the opposite and the strengths and weaknesses of both. But if we dial it into let's say a team that's not even necessarily on the professional level, what is the best approach for people to understand how to figure out rotations and the impact of rotations? Like how would you go about? Let's say you've picked up some players, some youngsters who are very mechanically skilled, yet you're in a position, I think you have found yourself in this position historically, where you have to micromanage them because they don't have the ability to read the game in the way that you're reading the game. And as you say, you all need to be on the same page in that regard. So how do you get those players like up to speed with you?
Yeah, like you said, I've had this problem a lot in my career, and it takes a lot of time and effort. Like today I played with a complete pug in like this DreamHack Valencia tournament, and we made it pretty far to the close qualifier. Once we played an actual team and we were trying to like do a default and get mid control or something, people were just dying in places that they couldn't die. Like we would lose map control. Literally, I feel like every round Complexity got like opening picks. And that's just a team like Complexity. Like what if we played a team like FaZe? They would just abuse the hell out of us. I think the way you do it is you do peer demo reviews, and you just constantly, but you have to look at the right teams, right? Like when you do demo reviews, people think, say a team like FaZe, they think FaZe is like super bare bones, like they don't have anything. But when I was making videos, and maybe by the time this podcast released, my couple of the ECS videos will be out, but I didn't actually make the video, but I could still. So FaZe played Mousesports in an ECS game on Mirage, and they actually won, I believe. Or it might have, I think it was. Yeah, it was Mousesports. And I was just looking at the demo. I mean, it's just a standard online match. I think both these teams are probably making the playoffs. I'm not sure. I mean, they both are pretty strong teams, so it's kind of weird that they try super hard. But if you just look at what FaZe does on that T side, you can understand how every player on that team knows how to push and pull rotations. So like on the first gun round, they throw a lot of heavy nades in mid on T side Mirage. Like they smoke window top mid, they smoke catwalk, they like molly connector, they send the guy out top mid. And meanwhile, 3 guys are just walking B till contact. and the fourth guy that was throwing stuff from mid comes like, maybe 5-10 seconds behind them, holds underpass for a second, flashes over. They get a 1-on-4 in the B site. The next gun round, they do the same exact smokes, nades on mid, flash, molly, smoke, blah, blah, blah. And they go out A, right? So the other team's adapting at this point. They send 2 guys B. The connector guy hasn't learned his lesson yet. So he's still in connector. The guy in window is still in window. The cat guy, like I said, receded back into B because he got burned once before. This time they abuse A. The next gun round, they just go straight into an A exec. Like they smoke top mid, I think, and then they just go straight into an A exec. They lose. The next gun round, they smoke stairs and connector at A, and 3 guys try to like dry take mid. But why are they dry taking mid? Well, they're dry taking mid because the connector player, when he sees the stairs and connector smoke, he's immediately thinking, oh, I got to help my A player to stop this A exec. So he's out of the picture, right? The cat guy, actually, they use utility, or they use positioning to avoid the cat guy, that by going like 2 through underpass, I think. So the cat guy's out of the picture, and the window guy is probably rotating spawn at that point after he's like cleared mid for maybe 5 seconds. So they're just pushing and pulling rotations the entire half of a standard online game that probably doesn't really mean much to them. Just watching that demo as a team and like having you all understand why every round is called is what would get you in the right direction. And I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, but it'll get you in the right direction.
Yes, it's definitely it's like when you analyze film to a degree, and you like very well produced, big budget film. Everything is put there for a reason. So if you can sort of like, going off of your example, like, watching the right teams, it really does feel like you can sort of backwards engineer everything and really start to figure out exactly why people are doing this, that, or the other. That's like a very good, I think, if you don't have a starting point from an analytical perspective, that makes a lot of sense. But as you say, like there is such a big difference between pug Counter-Strike, team Counter-Strike, and then professional Counter-Strike. There really does seem to be a really big difference even within the professional scene. I mean, you already sort of because what you just described there was a really nice mix of, I mean, we know this with FaZe anyway. They have a very nice mix of understanding how to play the macro and the micro elements in a more sort of cohesive way, as opposed to any sort of tunnel vision as we sort of describe with North, or perhaps some of the downfalls of Fnatic is that for sometimes when it's very optimal to do something that's very routines, let's say an actually this does happen with Fnatic. I'll often see them running an force bar anti-eco, and it will actually look very suboptimal. Like from a theoretical perspective, the way that they play is very suboptimal, but it's just sort of, that's just kind of, it's just their style. It just bleeds into all those situations and means that they're playing that round suboptimally. So it's from an analytical perspective, I always am trying to think about how to make it easy for people, because, and I know you must be of this mind as well, because how do you actually get to understand all of that? Because like right now, you as Sean Gares, you've got so much experience with Counter-Strike. You've got so much experience, reading the game and watching demos. Over time, you've created like models to sort of pass this data through when you watch a demo. So what, like you suggested what teams to, or you suggested to watch FaZe in that instance, and that they were doing things right. But what other teams can people learn from in this way when you're thinking about rotations, and you're thinking about from a theoretical standpoint, a team that does very good calling in your mind?
Yeah, I think Astralis always does, or like honestly, I struggle to find things they do wrong. Like, it amazes me how quick they all are at adapting on the fly, and just like their organization level is unreal. They're such a strong team. Like, I feel like you could replace the players on Astralis with, less skilled players, and they probably wouldn't be like a top 2 team in the world, but they could probably remain in the top 20, even with like average players on their team. Like, that's how strong their fundamentals are. Actually, Navi, outside of like Simple doing his crazy stuff, they do a very good job actually of trading and spacing, entering bomb sites. So like, yeah, you don't want to copy all of Navi's game plans and stuff like that. But if you watch how they bleed the clock low and how they make sure they're not going to run into a lot of utility on those rounds, and then the pathings they take, Navi does a really good job of making sure that, like, yes, the first guy entering in Zeus or maybe Edward or something like that, they're not going to get the entry kill. Like they're just not. But their spacing is in such a way where the guy behind them is almost certainly going to get the trade. And that's why Navi is just constantly able to just grind out these games, like these close games, because eventually on T sides, like the coin flips your way. And that's all you need on T sides most of the time to break the other team's economy. Like you don't need to win these super sexy rounds, where all 5 people are alive and yeah, this execute looked fucking great. No, like that's not real Counter-Strike. Real Counter-Strike is somewhat of a mixture, actually, probably between like Navi and Ashalis is playing like perfect CS. So, but Navi does a lot of the fundamentals really, really well. I actually think Mouse Sports plays really solid CS. FaZe, I mean, pretty much if you look at any team in the top 10, they all are really strong fundamentally at like trading. There's certain teams that you'll see use more innovative stuff tactically. Like that's why I like Astralis. FaZe will use a couple smokes and Molotovs that I've never seen before. Like they'll innovate stuff. Mouse Sports does as well. And SK obviously will occasionally come up with some new stuff too. But all of those teams in the top 10 are like excellent when it comes to reading rotations and understanding like what certain kills mean. To answer your question.
Yeah, and so sort of moving forward a little bit as far as like, because I like this idea of sort of thinking about like what does a game plan kind of look like, and you've talked about some of the calling and the importance of rotations and some of the sort of the micro and macro elements. What about defaults? Because that's actually not a word that's come up just yet, and this is something that we talk about a lot. And I mean, from my perspective, it's been interesting. Some people that I've had discussions with who I would say have very good expert level knowledge of Counter-Strike, some of them have different ideas of what a default is. And I mean, to me, just having a default was merely just taking as much uncontested map control as possible, and then basically playing off of the information, and whilst it's at the same time sort of obscure to the CTs, it always sort of looks the same. Maybe you have 3 players this side of the map, like let's say 3 players towards A on Cobblestone on one round, and another round you have 3 towards B because of whatever reason you've decided that extra pressure could be useful. But how would you do you think defaults are important? Like how would you define a default?
Yeah, I think defaults are super important. Default, in my opinion, is kind of like a base setup to like feel out what the other team is doing. And your main goal is to just figure out the other team's setup, right? And if the picks happen, like you have to account for any way that a team can get a pick. So again, I'll just stick to the example of like Mirage. So when you run a default, if you're running a slow default, you have a guy holding the top mid push, you have a guy holding maybe the underpass push. You might want a guy holding the B push and a guy holding maybe the A halls push, because A hall, like Palace, it's really hard to get that back once a CT is in there. Like you can hide a variety of angles. So you typically want to have a guy there. That's why you see typically the A lurkers go towards Palace instead of ramp. And also you'll hear the pop flash ramp, although you do have to switch it up, right? Like occasionally teams will do 1-1, 1 ramp, 1 Palace. But anyway, so once you wait out initial aggressions like that, you then, in my opinion, like you have to do a good job of switching between slow and fast defaults. But the reason why you would do like a slow default on Mirage is you have to take into account, the A player goes towards A. What does he do? He typically like mollies A ramp and then he smokes it. So when that molly smoke is up, what's going to happen is he then has to watch ramp and Palace all by himself. Thus, the connector player is more likely to recede back and start holding his Palace, right? They might smoke his Palace. That might buy him some more time. So you can see like you have to understand that part of the default. And I think the goal of a default is just to push a team into a base setup. Like there's only so many places that 3 people can play on Mirage when you have all of mid control and, like you have A ramp control and Palace control. So say you wanted to A split on Mirage and you're coming up through connector, you throw a smoke jungle and you're coming up connector towards the A site. You have a guy lurking A ramp and a guy lurking palace. You have 3 guys coming up connector. Your op is like holding the ticket peak. 2 guys are running up along the bench, and all of the fights are directly in front of them. Like they can clear default, they can clear under balk, top balk, and they can pinch A ramp, the peak for A ramp with the guy A ramp. So like everything is in your favor now because you've dictated the setup of the other team. And that is what, in my opinion, like a default is you dictate the setup of another team, assuming they don't push into you. If they push into you, that's great. You don't even need to show your default, right? Like you've done nothing to earn this round, and you've just basically spawned and went to spots. You've gotten a free kill, and now you can just kind of play off of the kill. And that's when understanding rotations, is super valuable. I think that would be my best way to try my default. It's really hard. It's like a complicated subject.
Yeah.
It's hard to give it a concise definition.
No, yeah, that's definitely something that's for future sort of editions, if this is sort of a popular thing that, I'd love to sort of dive into. But speaking, you sort of summarized it pretty effectively as it stands in your mind, but something that you can modulate all your play with is speed, pacing. This is like a really important concept too, from the perspective of, calling rounds, because you can call the same rounds 10 times, but with 10 different paces, essentially. Obviously, that's not going to be an effective way to play the game, but it's clearly an important concept. So how do you interpret pacing or the power of it within matches, and what are some good examples for teams that use it really well, or why is it strong?
Yeah, no, pacing is super effective. Like I actually have a video coming out for ECS. You guys will be releasing it soon, where I go over NRG's pacing in one of their ECS matches, and how literally changing up their pace from round to round probably won them a half against Optic. This is when Optic had Stanislaw and Shazam. So like I said, doing like a slow default, like I said, that connector player, he's not going to see anything mid. He might be like wanting to push top mid, right? He might push in one of your players, or he might just recede back into the A site and play his cards like safe, So there's 2 people in the A site and like one guy maybe around jungle. Maybe the opera rotates to CT spawn and that connector player stays around jungle connector. That's actually more likely, to be honest. But what if you did like a fast default mid, right? You do a fast default mid, you like throw your smoke top mid, you actually run out top mid, you molly connector. Well, now the connector player is staying connector and the window guy is staying window. The cat guy is probably going to come to cat, and there's going to be 1A, 1B, right? So you abuse that. So you can see how like changing the pace of just going mid affects your looks on the entire map, right? Just not throwing anything mid compared to throwing all that stuff mid changes up things a lot. So like when I did the NRG breakdown of their pacing, they go very, very slow the first couple of gun rounds. And then on a force buy, they like smoke top mid, and Cirque just runs out top mid, like behind the mid box. And Config has been like conditioned in a way to think no one's out mid right now. This is just the top mid smoke to get me to waste my utility, smoke bottom connector. So he creeps out connector behind his connector one way and tries to peek underpass, and Cirque catches him top mid box. But he doesn't get that kill if he didn't condition Config to think he was safe the first couple gun rounds. I promise you, Config doesn't get that sloppy without the changing of pacing. And obviously that's just looking at mid, changing your pacing towards A and B. It's super important, actually. It's very, very important.
And that's actually quite funny for using that example with Config, because there are so many elements of the game that are very difficult to see. And Counter-Strike, like life, if we're going to be very profound, is all about taking the right risks, and it's always a risk, like a game of poker. You can always get suckered out, even though you had the strongest hand, by like something that was going to come up 5% of the time. That can make a play look really, really bad, and sometimes all we get is that viewer statistics. So it's definitely interesting when you start to really look at all of these sort of micro situations. But also one thing that you didn't mention, which I like to use sometimes as an example with another benefit of pacing, is actually a way to sort of safely waste your opponent's utility in some respects. Like Inferno Banana, it can be quite a good example when the CTs feel as though you've been putting a lot of emphasis towards Banana, and that with Banana you kind of have to put the emphasis there as the CTs with utility quickly, because if the Ts do it, you just lose it straight away, and that's so much map control and so on. So then if you have a round later on where you as the Ts just chill out and play a really slow round, and then the CTs start with 3 in Banana and they're tossing all the grenades, so the pre-nades, all of a sudden you're winning on utility, and that is a very strong position to find yourself in. And to that point, one thing that I want to talk to you about, and I'm sure you've had a lot of frustration with this. In fact, there was that video of you watching, I forget which teams were playing, but it was you sort of being very disappointed, let's say, with the choice of use of a smoke for a player in pit. There was like 30 seconds left on Inferno, and the CT was sitting in pit, and he decides to just tunnel vision and be like, I learned this really cool one way, let me just drop that, and it's just very inappropriate. But
yeah, that's like a very selfish. It was such a selfish play, like given the time in the round, right? Like that actually is a really sick one way. Like I'm not discrediting the fact that smoke's like a good or bad smoke. It's the time that he threw it at like 30 seconds. He's sitting on this smoke in pit, and if he just smoked off like the hay at lane, if he smoked off halls, if he smoked off mini pit, so that way once his teammate spots them coming up wrap, like they'd have to jump through a smoke to get to site. Any of those choices probably wins that round. But throwing a one-way in pit, you're not really accounting for the people rapping on the A bomb site. They're about to kill he's about to literally have his teammate killed on balcony from a guy rapping. His teammate's calling rap. He's running into the site, potentially going to die from halls. Like there's just so many better choices that could have been made with that smoke, in my opinion. And yeah, I don't even know. What do you think? What do you think about it?
To me, it was just like a really clear example of the tunnel vision for someone who doesn't understand how to read the game outside of their own performance, and that's kind of like what I saw there. But it did bring to my mind when we're talking about pacing and the discussion around utility as well. Utility is something that some teams are just so much better than others at using or like holding on to and so on. Like, do you have anything to say on that element when you like? Have you ever had any conversations with the teams that you've been playing with about like on that CT side? Let's say how you want to spend utility, because you use Astralis as an example, and I think that they are phenomenal when it comes to utility usage and saving utility for the very late round, which makes things very problematic for teams playing a slower pace.
Yeah, I don't like you said, you probably watched, probably close to as much CS as I have in the last couple of years because you've been casting so much. And I'd say like someone like a team like Astralis or even like SK, they'll never just waste a smoke grenade. Like if they can jiggle peek something until they spot you and then drop that smoke grenade, that's what they're going to do. And your chances of killing that guy jiggle peeking are like definitely like sub 5% because he's doing it so well that you're not going to kill him. You're just not. Like even if you have the fastest opera in the world, that's why teams like Astralis and SK get away with this shit time and time again. Is like they play Inferno, and they're holding top mid for the first 15 seconds, and then they smoke top mid, and that, or actually they might not even smoke top mid. Like sometimes they literally just don't. You will smoke left mid, you'll use all your utility, and then when your left mid smoke fades, they might re-smoke left mid, like the arch side of mid. And then you're like, okay, well, are they filtering us to go lane right now? Like, what are they doing? Like, this guy, if we jump through this arch smoke, we're surely dead. We don't want to do that. But if we go up lane, that's like kind of going into what they want us to do. Also, could the rap guy have gone to B, like, because he's not afraid of us jumping through this. Like you can see like the mind games in that utility usage, or like the vice versa. You'll see them as the arch smoke fades, they'll smoke off porch, and you'll just be like, okay, now we have to sit here in mid behind this smoke, and then when that smoke fades, who knows? They might like pop flash peek behind it and just get Brad control. And then this guy B is still sitting on a smoke. And like I said, he's not smoking until the guy jiggle peeking spawn spots a guy, and then his smoke is down immediately. And by the time we hit B, we're jumping through a smoke there too. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think Astralis is so good at using utility. Like they have like mastered it, in my opinion. Zipix in particular is just a god when it comes to using every nade. I don't think he's ever wasted a grenade in this game at this point. He's so good.
He is disgustingly intelligent. It is really, he's always been one of my absolute favorites just because I don't give a shit if he frags or not. I just love seeing his decisions. Like it's just so, there's so much clarity of minds from him, and everything is so well thought out. You can just look at his POV and just, you can just learn so much. But sort of, moving, the discussion around utility to a different point. Can you win a game with set pieces? Like, how important are set pieces?
I definitely think you can win a game with set pieces. I think you could win tons of games with set pieces. Now you can't win a game with like just set pieces that don't really work with each other very well. But you can if they all use like similar utility that the other team would confuse. So like you throw the same smokes here and go A, you throw the same smokes in that same spot, and then you're creeping B, and you have like a little bit of like a mini exec at B, like one smoke, one flash to catch off a guy like 1v3. I think set pieces are super important in that regard. And like I said, like North became one of the best teams on Cobblestone by having only set pieces, but they did it by becoming so good at having the same exact timing for their hits. And I don't even know if they did it on purpose, but like I said, like they would hit drop and do like a fast drop split to B within the first 20 seconds of the round. They would rush mid in the first 20 seconds of the round. They would have a plat creep where they would creep out and like pop flash and just rush out B in the first 20 seconds of the round, and then have the strongest B exec in the game. And they would also have like a fast default where they would run through A halls and smoke connector and balcony in the first like 30 seconds of the round. Like all of those seem like they're very different strats, but because they happen in the same exact time frame of the round, you can never really know what to do. Like, because if you guess wrong, then you're just totally out of place. Like there's so many different options for them. And say like you want to have like a setup mid, like say, okay, I'm going to pick mid over my smoke, and I just need you to kill them if they jump through the smoke. That takes two people out of your team to do that. And meanwhile, they could be doing their B exec versus three guys, one of which is holding drops, so technically two guys. And basically only one of them is going to be in front of the smoke. So let's say one guy. So like they're going to get a 1-on-5 B on this insane B exec because you're trying to defend their mid rush, that's why I think having the right execs is super important. Any exec can work, but I think if you want it to work long term, you need to think like that.
Yeah, you can't really just be like, okay, his barrage A with smokes and just sort of go. So, you're saying that it really needs to fall into the overall sort of philosophy of how you want to play, basically. Everyone has to get it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So from that perspective too, let's say, you've got a good set piece or two, you've got a default, what else that we also we talked about pacing. So, you understand your players understand some, rotations, you're able to modulate how you're, doing stuff with pacing, and you've got like a decent read of from round to round as to how you might be conditioning or suggesting things, and you've got good follow-ups to each gun round. So what about contact rounds? That's something we haven't spoken about. Contact plays. Is that something that just sort of almost comes under pacing? Is are contact plays something different in their own right?
I think contact plays are really strong, actually. So that's why I always thought it was so crazy that people are like, oh, this player's in-game leading style doesn't work anymore. Because the way I think of in-game leading is all of this stuff we've talked about is viable. Like anything that we've talked about is viable. and it will all work. Like, I don't have a style. My style is wanting to win. Like,
that's a pretty good style.
Contact play. And the style hasn't been working very well. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so like contact plays, I think are really viable, especially when. That's why you have to push and pull rotations, right? Like, if you wanted to do a contact play B on Mirage, then you'd want to pull the cat player away from B and pull him towards cat with like one of your players. But you can contact walk B with like 3 players. Like, that's literally exactly what I said. Like FaZe did on their first gun run against Mousesports and ECS is, you know, like they threw a lot of utility mid and then they just contact walked B with 1 flash. And yeah, you get that like 1-on-3 B site. You just swarm kill that guy as quickly as possible. And even if he gets 2 kills, your 3v4 in the B site is still pretty strong because that's a hard site to retake. And that's asking a lot of that B side player to get 2 kills, by the way, when 3 players are pushing him and his cat player is negated out of the equation. And plus, if you do it correctly, your 4th player would be the AWP player and he's just posted on market. So the window rotating Mirage, he's not even going to get to the site. Like, he's not even going to be able to cross market without having to like face your opper, which is certain death, which is why you see success in those kind of plays at the pro level is they understand how to like where the rotation's coming from and how to get that 1-on-3 at the B site. And that's why contact plays are viable, is because you can get that 1-on-3 if you do it correctly. But if you just like start the round, you're like, hey guys, let's just walk B this round, and no one throws anything, and you don't have the opera posted market, you're probably going to get just shit on completely. Like, you're going to have a really tough round if you play a good team.
So is it something that, you know, you can use a lot of the time? Like, you know, having set pieces, you know, you could definitely see a team running a lot of set pieces, and there's a lot of benefits to it. There's a huge exchange of, you know, utility. So from that perspective, you're really making, you know, good use of your money. You're also hurting their economy. They have to also use a lot of utility and so on. And there's lots you can do with it. But with contact plays, you are sort of banking on the element of surprise somewhat. It's definitely not the same. So can you, like, is there, I mean, you're saying, you know, you have to pick your spots and you have to do it correctly, but can you play a very contact oriented style? Can you call that kind of game? Is that appropriate, or is that very team specific and in reality you don't want to really go too crazy with it?
I definitely think there's team specific styles of calling. Like, if you play like lower tier teams, it's often harder to manipulate. I wouldn't say harder to manipulate the rotations, because still, if you still like push and pull them around the map, probably even more so because they're over rotating. But they also take fights that, you know, other like good teams would never ever take. So they might catch you off guard in that regard. Like, you have to be really aware of it. But I think having a mixture of just styles that you call is very important. Like, I would keep on going back to this one example because I don't want to, like, I think it's nice just to keep building on this example. But the FaZe, so in the FaZe demo, like I said, they push and pull rotations at A and B in the first 3 gun rounds by using mid, right? Like, they're pulling people towards mid and going A and B. And then it gets to a point, and then they throw the A smokes and then they go mid. And then it gets to a point where any team, not even just because it's Mousesports, they're going to see your smokes and be like, man, fuck these smokes. Like, we're not rotating anywhere. Like, these smokes mean nothing. Like, you're not going to use these. Like, this is just to make us move around the map. It's just to make us use utility. And like, eventually the connector player is going to see, you know, an exec happen A. He's going to be like, dude, I'm staying connector. Like, there's no point in trying to help you A unless you tell me you see the bomb or something. Like, I'm just letting them take mid for free at this point. And that's when you do like an exec A. Like, if a team doesn't respect your grenades and they're not playing the way you want them to play, you punish them by playing, exec CS. Like, if you're not playing fundamentally correct Counter-Strike, and execute should be able to beat you. If you are playing fundamentally correct Counter-Strike, I should be able to push and pull you with my grenades, right? So that's why you can't have one or the other. Like, you have to have somewhere of a mixture between both. You have to understand what the other team is thinking, and you don't really have that many rounds to do it, especially when you don't plant the bomb, which is why it gets a little bit difficult. It's definitely tricky.
Yeah, that's always another great topic. I know that in my background, when I played a lot of Quake Duel at a professional level, there was a very distinct approach that I often like to take, unless I knew my opponent incredibly well. But even still, in some cases, I would always like to play a little bit slower, just to feel out the way that the other person wants to play the game, so that I'm not taking the huge risks until they're sort of showing me that they're trying to take some big risks. I want to sort of match them in that sense. Do you ever feel like do you always feel like you kind of already know the kind of approach you're going to have before the match starts, or against any kind of a team, or do you go in thinking, all right, let's just do some basic stuff, not take some huge risks or huge gambles, and just see sort of how they play, and then you start to read it on the fly? Or do you just start off and you're like, okay, I already know I want to run this kind of a game?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So typically what I like to do is like scan over a team's pass game. Like the whole aspect of me like hard anti-shredding people is a little bit overblown. But what I'll do is I'll find like certain tendencies. Like today, when I played Cash like against Complexity, I told my team if they ever throw a second smoke mid as like CT, like so we're on T. If they ever re-smoke bottom mid, they're probably playing a 1-3-1 setup, and we should abuse one of the sites at that point, right? Like that is like a very general thing. And then on top of that, I'll have like two strats, three strats that I want to do because they'll work like against this team or any team. Like new strat that we've added. So I want to do this, and oh, by the way, like these are tendencies, and this is how I'm going to call if I see those tendencies. But then if stuff goes wrong, then obviously you have to like back out of that. Like if they just switch up things completely. But that's the thing is even if they double smoked mid and then played like two people A, like you should still have a good enough A execute where you can trade those kills. Like it's not like you're just running out A dry and like there's gonna be 5 people there kind of thing. But yeah, and then there's other teams that I've played in matches where, so say like when we played Flipside at the major this last time,
an overpass.
I just told my team an overpass. I just told my team I was like, you guys are literally not going to understand if things start going wrong, but I'm going to keep wanting to go to the B bomb site just time and time again. Like I see flaws like all over the place, and you just have to trust. We had like 3 or 4 like really fast B hits, and we had like 1 or 2 slow B hits. And I think literally at Odense we won our overpass game against NIP by doing all like A strats. So it's like, okay, I'm not only do I think they have a weak B, but I think they're not even going to be ready for the fact that we're going to want to hit the B site, because in our past games, which they're going to look at, we hit the A site so fucking much that we can abuse the B site this game. So like, I don't know, like it goes so deep for like how I want to call that, a tournament that I played a month before, I am like playing like the mind game of like, they're not going to be ready for this shit at all. Like and then furthermore, what I like to do sometimes, not all the time, is if you want to abuse a site like B, like that, like say like I go into a match, like I'm just like, oh, we're just going to abuse the fuck out of B. Maybe on pistol round, I'll go A. And maybe on the eco round, I'll go A. And the first gunner, I'm going to go B. But when you're ecoing again, I'm going to go A. But every round that matters, I'm going to keep going B. Like every round that matters, I'm going to go B. But you're not even going to realize it because I've hit the A site technically more times than the B bomb site. So I don't know. Like I play like all kind of weird little games that, makes you very hard to read as an in-game leader. So it's hard to say like for sure if I'm going to use this game plan or that game plan, because honestly, like most of the time I don't even know until I start watching demos, like what I want to do and how I want to approach playing a certain team.
That is awesome. I can't wait to do more commentary now and watch more games just to sort of see some of those elements, because I do wonder sometimes if a team is trying to, like what methods they use to obscure the information, the real sort of gem of info that's gonna, because for example in this in the example they use with Flipside, if they just realize that B is always sort of the goal, as you say, in the important rounds, and that you're just trying to obscure that changes the game dramatically. And I mean, it's so much about information. Counter-Strike is so much about information. It's always quite analogous to poker in that sense to me. But before we go down that rabbit hole, I would love to ask you, what do you think about the sort of requirements as well for a team from a player perspective? Because when you're building a team, sometimes, people, there's always these transfers, and people always think, is this going to work? Is that going to work? This guy's like, Chris J is a good example. He was an AWPer, and that was his identity. And then, it comes upon him to have to go to an IGL role, and so he picks that up, and because of that he has to rifle because he's got another player on his team, like Oscar, who's obviously you want him AWPing, and so what is the ideal structure for a team? Obviously not everyone's able to adapt like that, but obviously you don't want 3 AWPers on a team, right? Is there an ideal situation?
Honestly, I've thought about this before, if I had it in me to just literally just not give an F and just do whatever, I would want to make a team with 3 AWPers and just see if it works out. Just find some new way to play the game and push and pull rotations with ops instead of utility. Because I've seen teams do this before. When SK plays overpass, oh my god, let me talk about. So when SK plays overpass, you'll see Fallen sometimes go to long A with an AWP, and the rest of his team leaves the A default and starts going back to Monster to creep out Monster. But the reason why they leave Fallen at long A with an AWP is because people think about AWPs at the pro level way differently than they think about AKs, right? You don't think that SK is going to leave their AWPer at long A to just pointlessly make noise. You think about the investment and Fallen's impact as an in-game lead. You're okay, this guy's long A with an AWP with 30 seconds left in the round. Surely they're ending A this round. Let's rotate the third guy to A right now. But that's the value of an AWP. AWPs have weird value at the pro level that, just it isn't seen. When you see an AWP, say, picking upper B on Mirage at the start of round on T side, the other team is not going to rush A in the next 30 seconds. No one does that. And maybe now that I say that, someone's going to do it. But you're way more likely to just have a slow round. And if the AWPer does pick the guy B, then you just roll with it right away because you have more people around him than just him by himself. But I think using ops in certain ways just hasn't been really tested to its fullest. And I think honestly, a lot of spots in the game can just be held with ops way easier than guns. The problem is the economy thing. That's it'll never work because in Pro CS, and this is why I let me just level myself back down. In Pro CS, and let me level the community back down because they're this is what I've always wanted. This is what I told you. We need Fallen, simple. We need fucking Guardian. We need. Let's make the dream team, boys. No, because what happens is if you watch even the best teams in the world win tournaments, the rounds that are very, very important, that swing matches, they don't have the best buys. That's why when teams or when players come to me and they're yo, I have this new exec, we're fucking use 5 smokes on the fucking A bomb site, and we're always use 18 flashes and 4 miles. There's nowhere for them to hide. I'm that's great, man. But when you run that one time and you can never run that again because the other team is then playing retake or something like that, and they understand what you're doing, or maybe they figure out a one-way smoke from the site over the default box or some shit. Yeah, first of all, you will never have that much utility late in a match, in a pro match. If you're grinding it out against the top team, it just doesn't happen. And you're gonna be people are gonna be well, why didn't you save better? Why didn't you save your money better? Well, if I full saved that round before, my round win means almost nothing because I killed no one on the other team. Their economy is stronger than ever. And me winning that round is just whatever. I just won one round, as opposed to if I grind their economy down the entire match, just winning one round on T side is like winning 3. You know, like that's why, you know, teams like Navi have so much success, is because they just grind your economy down the entire match, and eventually they win a round. Like eventually they're going to win a round, and that's going to reset your economy, and they get 2 more for free, and they get a lot. Then at that point they have way more economy than you. I don't know. I don't even remember where we started. It was the whole opera thing. I'm all over the place.
I can bring it back to the AWPs actually. So you talked about how AWPs different on the pro level and how you can sort of fake teams out with them and so on. And I think we actually had a good example of that when you were down in the studio at ECS. So I think it was a cobblestone, and there was an AWPer like staying at long, and it seemed like he was completely useless. And I was just scratching my head like, you know, why is he there? And you went on to explain that it was sort of this just like faking dynamic, which actually worked really well. It was an amazing round. I think it was Mouse Wars to Fnatic. Either way, it's besides the point. The main thing that I wanted to mention actually was at the pro level, because AWPers are so good and they can all use an AWP like a shotgun and get multiple no-scopes and crazy stuff like that pretty consistently. Are set pieces a reliable answer to double AWP setups? Because that's kind of the thinking in a lot of regards. People say, okay, you know, that the very basic idea here is that if they have AWPs, you know, you want to sort of just get a rush onto some positioning using, you know, smoke grenades that will obscure the vision and prevent the AWPs from having vision, so you can get the bomb down. And then having the bomb down means that you're forcing the AWPs to move in and out of position, and that makes their lives more difficult, and there's more players at once. Like there's a lot of like arguments there from a theoretical standpoint, but when it comes down to actual practice, like how do you feel about it? Is this something that you don't want to overdo it, or, you know, how do you feel about that?
I definitely think it's true that executing on the AWPers is really strong, especially when the other team has 2 of them, right? Because that typically means that either a rifler, like say like if it's like Mirage, either there's 3 rifles playing mid, or, you know, they might be playing 1 rifle playing retake CG spawn or something like that. And if you exec on A on that guy, well, if it's an AWPer, then, you know, you pretty much get the site for free, and you plant the bomb. You definitely need to have a post plant idea. Then at B, the other side of the coin, yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say though, because people are so good with utility these days that like executing is always so scary to me, honestly. Especially when the other team has like enough money to double op. That means they probably have like Molotovs and ops and stuff like that. Or I'm sorry, smokes, obviously. So like if you exec B, then, you know, you're just gonna get stuck behind like 2 Molotovs, probably have to jump through a smoke, and by the time you get there, the 3rd guy has rotated from window. It's so like situational that like, I don't know. Like, yes, I think you need like a set piece, but not in the sense of what probably people are thinking about when they listen to this, like a straight A exec or B exec. It needs to be something like dynamic, like that Cloud9 execute that I broke down that they did at the major, where they like fast split through connector and Mirage, like something like that. You know, where people are coming in from like so many different angles, like into the A site. Like one guy's jumping window, one guy's coming up connector, 2 guys are coming up ramp, 1 guy's coming up palace, and sometimes they might switch it up and have like 3 come through mid, 2 come through palace. But you're just trading the kill. Like that's like the most important thing when you play against 2 ops, is you cannot let him get a free kill and get away. That's why, like, you know, we played this pug match today, you know, like I think Complexity opened up almost every gun round on us, like with a kill. And that's just something that like a little bit like worse teams, like not players, but teams struggle with, is, you know, like not giving that free kill up. And it doesn't matter if you have to play like super passive, or you have to like jiggle peek till a guy spots you, and you basically give yourself no chance of getting a kill. That's why like teams like Navi are so strong, is because outside of their like weird lack of fundamentals of taking mid control that one tournament where I don't know, the one where Henry was casting, it was just so funny.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So outside of that tournament, they typically have really good fundamentals where they don't like allow themselves to just get caught in constant 5v4s. Obviously, teams like Astralis do a great job of that too. But there's a lot of like jiggle peeking and strange peeking, typically done by Zeus, to make sure that even if he does die, there's like always a guy there to like swing out and trade the kill. And operators like don't get away on Navi as much as they do against other teams. So yeah, I think the execute thing, just to like kind of give you a simple answer, it probably is the best way. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think from theoretically it makes a lot of sense. I agree completely with what you said. It's one of those things where you can't just say, oh, just having executing a set piece is going to be effective. You really have to make it dynamic, and you have to take extra steps. I think when you're playing it on the professional level, because the AWPs are just so good, and it's just such a strong gun. And as you said, like you can't allow the AWP to get away with a free kill, and that is why they're so strong. Because if a really good AWP is incredibly like the weapon, it's just very hard to trade. It can be very untradeable in certain spots. So yeah, it's just one of those interesting questions, and I think the meta game will shift over time around this, and maybe we'll see slight differences. But I think from what Counter-Strike is, I think it's always going to be somewhat the same. But I'll be looking forward to seeing how teams interpret that as the future, as we see things unwind in the future. And also, actually, as you said, there might be a team that does do more triple AWPs. I mean, you do see teams, as you said, with SK going for the opportunistic triple AWP. If there's one on the floor, maybe they'll pick one up for one round just to surprise, for the element of surprise, which is incredibly strong with an AWP as well, because that's, as you mentioned, like it can just be an opening kill immediately, just the surprise in one position, which is why I like on Mirage, keeping Mirage as an example. If you got Stewie bullying the crap out of your B player, you can just like swap out, like get your AWP over there at the beginning of the round, get him a really fast timing, and then Stewie is going to take an angle which he thinks is safe against a rifler, but against an AWP he'll die. So it's an interesting one. But moving forwards and away from AWPs a little bit, I really wanted to talk to you about protocols, because I think the concept of protocols is a really, really awesome thing that pretty much exists everywhere in life as well. Like, it's kind of like, if it's like an if statement. And I think it's really important because things happen so incredibly quickly in the game. Sometimes you just need to have an automated response. You don't have time to think. So how deep do you go with protocols? Because I know some teams and some people really think that you want to have them for almost everything, but what's your interpretation of the idea of protocols?
I definitely think, if you call like a base setup, or I guess, yeah, because if you call like a actual setup, say like you want to like an A ramp push or something like that, there's different protocols. But like with a base setup on Mirage, say like mouse sports, when Chris is on cat, Oscar's in window, Sonny's in connector, Rob's A, Sicko B kind of round, they do that a lot, right? But they have protocols, like their A player, like kind of like the video I made of Rain, where every round you as the connector player know that Rain is going to Molotov ramp. After that Molotov fades, Rain is going to smoke ramp. When that smoke is up, he's in like one of 7 spots watching that smoke. He's not watching halls. So you as the connector player need to make like occasional jump spots to halls, spot that out. If a team takes mid control, we're going to double smoke bottom connector. If a team doesn't take mid control, me as Oscar, I'm going to rotate out window, make sure I don't get picked by Palace, because that's not smoked. I'm going to now smoke off Palace because mid isn't a threat right now. So chances are they're like A or B. So I'm going to smoke off Palace. That's going to buy us some time to like rotate around the map, get in a better setup. That's what protocols do for you. It allows you to like get that time necessary to get in a better setup and make a team make a play that they don't want to make, And if Rain spawned one round and he didn't throw anything to A ramp, and he's just like holding he probably wouldn't even want to hold an angle towards a ramp at that point if he's not holding a smoke. He would probably just jump spot or something like that. So basically, a guy is just going to run out, take a fight on him, molly him out CT spawn because they're going to get such good vision on him. And then he's going to get no comms. Well, like he doesn't get the comms that he would have had he done his protocol, you know, like because they're jumping through a smoke. They don't have the vision coming through that smoke that they would have normally. You know, the timings are just way different. And similarly, like if the connector player, if he sees like a top mid smoke and a window smoke and he hears a guy out mid, what if he doesn't like or smoke bottom connector? What if he's like, nah, you know what? I'm not going to tell my teammates, but this round I'm going to smoke the top of connector. A lot like how, you know, I was saying that Astralis re-smokes right mid on like CT Inferno. Like he's going to re-smoke top connector. Well, that's not a bad idea, but when Oscar like rotates out of jungle, or say like Rain might be floating in the middle of the A site, some guy could literally just like run up cat or run up bottom connector and just pick him along the back wall of the site because the connector player is not following a specific protocol. It's just a way to like kind of, you know, mitigate randomness, I guess, in the game. It's kind of so you have a feeling of like control as like what's going on. You know, like you're not just swiveling around like, oh, I could die from connector, I could die from halls, I could die from ramp as the A player. You know, like, you know, as the A player, you're only dying to ramp and a guy that swings super wide on the balcony past your jungle player's site. So I think that's what the importance of like protocols are, in my opinion. And then obviously like there's the T side ones like on the defaults and stuff like that, where you're just pushing back spots.
I kind of also like it from the perspective that I feel like it's kind of, it's not like a cheat in any way, but it's like an easy way to sort of really structure how you think about playing certain spots and positions. If you're someone that doesn't know a huge amount about how to read the game or how to you know, interpret certain things, I feel like it does give you sort of a good sort of base to play off of, because you can sort of tweak it over time, and I think it's pretty much something that's very accessible for every single level of play as well. But to expand on the point, when it comes to communication, how do you feel about you know, having protocols insofar as like, you know, how the communication, or rather the flow of information goes when you're talking about, you know, your teammates communicating to you? Because like I always found when I was running teams that I was very strict on this, because I felt like for me personally as a player, it was quite distracting to have useless information or redundant stuff going across the comms. So some stuff would be saved for, you know, in Quake you would use binds, didn't really do that in CS, but you know, some stuff you would save for that, and then the very, very critical information would be communicated. We would actually have like our own codes for certain things to like shorten the amount of syllables as well for certain words. Like instead of saying like a rocket, we would say rock and all that kind of stuff. So have you ever like really put that much thought on communication or comms?
No, that actually seems like a really cool idea though. We struggled a lot with communication on Misfits, like a lot. Even like on Echo Fox, like there's a lot of, I mean, I don't know, like Misfits was a different reason. In Echo Fox we had like a couple silent people, or like one or two people that were just quieter, like wouldn't comm stuff. But in Misfits we just had like, obviously their Devaduvek and Amonix first language is French, so it's a little bit more difficult. But I think, yeah, communication is so important in CS. Like I like can't even stress that enough, you know, like how important it is to just calm what you see, what you hear, you know, like you said, the important stuff though, not like, oh, I really think they're coming A this round, guys. Like, I have no reason for fucking thinking this, but like, I'm just going to flood the comms right now because I've got this vibe. Like, my magic crystal necklace is telling me, my dream catcher in the corner of my room, you know, like, no. So, but like, if you hear a guy like go out top mid by the boxes and he smokes window while you hear a molly go cat, you know, like two guys are out top mid, like that is so important to calm. And like, if you're the cash B lurker, and I'm of the sense of an in-game leader where I want my B lurker on cash to tell me when the other team pre-smokes B. You know, like I think knowing the CT's smoke usage is like one of the most key ways to win a round when playing like, the Fnatic style of CS. Like if you're doing like a loose default based CS, it gives you such good insight to like what a team is trying to do. Like if you spawn in a round on cash and your B lurker is like, oh, they smoked B main, and then your mid guy's like, they smoked lower mid, which is pretty standard. I would pretty much say, tell me if they don't smoke lower mid. And then I'm in A main and I see they smoke A main. Well, that's 3 smokes. I'd be like, okay, well, after that first smoke fades, smoke Molly B and tell me what happens. So like he smokes Molly's B at that point. Do they resmoke? No, they don't resmoke. Oh, but they resmoked lower mid. Okay. Do they resmoke A main? Yes. Okay. So basically they're running like a 1B, 2 mid, 2A setup. Like you can literally figure it out within 45 seconds into the round, you know, like without throwing anything. So I think communication is so important in that aspect. And it's one of like the least talked about things in CS. And literally I'm going to put me in the category of like a viewer or even like an analyst. I have no idea as to like who communicates well in these teams. Like, do you? Like that stuff never really comes out. Like you don't know who's like good, like an excellent person at communicating what they like doing. And you can kind of get a good feel for it by watching teams play, but that's like one of those intangibles that you'll just like, I feel like never know.
Yeah, it's really, really very difficult. And as you say, I mean, I always believed that you could get a lot of gains from it, but also I felt as though having certain sort of protocols for the comms does sort of invest people in a different way into it as well, because they know that they're specifically looking for certain things. Like there's certain high priority things that you're like, if you see this goes on comms, and but also to control the morale of the team in a sense as well. I would always find that it seemed to be the case that I think this is just like just a natural human aspect of our human psychology, that if you're having a hard game. And everyone, and like, let's say, I would always tell my teams like, I'm not going to tolerate any sort of like complaining or whining or negativity on comms, and because I hate it personally. But also I noticed that as soon as the first person does it, it like gives permission to everybody else to start being a bit more negative. And I would actually see that trend happen over and over again. So that was also something that I was always quite strict on, because I feel as though that's really, really critical. Like if you're having a hard game and like you can hear that your teammates are also having a hard game, I feel like it really affects the confidence a little bit, because you don't feel like, now you feel like I have to do something because they're not going to get something, so I have to do something. And then it kind of shifts the balance as to what the initial game plan may have been.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Like if someone's being negative, it's like, stop being so fucking negative, stop being so cunty, and you're just like, wait, this is a little bit weird that I'm fucking you an asshole. No. So yeah, this is another huge problem we had on Misfits, and I think my theory on like team composition is you need at least one person that can like ease the attitude of the team. Like the person that can crack jokes and make people laugh, and that you can rely on to not ever just start putting people down. Like and on Cloud9, like Jordan was always that person, right? Like Jordan would never, if things were bad, Jordan was the person that would like tell a joke that would like lift the spirits of the team, And on Echo Fox, I think Ryan kind of took that role, but Ryan's like a lot more of like a serious competitor, like Freakazoid, than Jordan is, even though he is hilarious. But on Misfits, we didn't have that player, right? We had like 2 quiet people that didn't really speak a lot of English at the beginning. At the end, they're obviously speaking a lot better English. And then we had Sick, who was like a young up-and-coming player, didn't really like talking much at first. He obviously like lost him a lot over the year as well. And then Shaz, who's like a more serious person. And I mean, I do have a pretty lighthearted attitude when I play and we're winning, but when we're losing, I get very serious. Like, and I think pretty much almost all in-game leaders are going to be that way. It's not like I'm like angry or upset or raging at my teammates. It's just I'm not going to sit there. I don't have it in me to crack a joke, when I'm trying to analytically figure out why we just lost this round and what we can do the next round. Like, that's not in the cards. But I also think it's super important to keep the team morale up. So I think when I look at teams compositions that are very successful, I typically see that they have like these easygoing people that, aren't going to get negative or shut down or do this and that. Like, I look at Ashales, they have like jokesters on their team, man. Like, those guys always make me laugh. Like when I hang out with them. I mean, Zipix is a little bit quiet, but like Dupree, like Dupree's hilarious. Like, I think Dupree serves that role on that team. And I think that's super important. And no one's really talked about this. Like, I've actually wanted to like kind of come out and say this in the past. I'm trying to think like some other teams. So like Kerrigan's obviously like a goofball, but he's not going to be a fucking goofball when he's losing a game and, he's trying to think about ways how to bring the team back. Like, that has to be someone else on the team. You'll never see him cracking jokes probably when his team is down 15-9. Like, but you might when he's up 15-9. Like,
no, Guardian and Olaf love to give it as well. Like, I always hear them joking around when I've seen them in studio and stuff.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Like on like some of the VODs. Like, I think that's a very like understated, important aspect of team chemistry. I think that's why, like, when like Liquid had that deep tournament run and like the major where they got like second and fourth, like everything clicked and they didn't. And same thing with like the old Optic lineup. I heard that Optic lineup when they won E-League, like they had a lot of internal problems. And I think that's probably why Stan left. And yeah, like winning solves that. Yeah. Like winning solves that. Like, as long as you keep winning, people aren't going to be negative. Like, they have nothing to be negative about. Like they put their life into CS and all they want to do is win. Okay, we're winning. Everything's happy. Everything's great. It's when you lose, like, and that's when, like Liquid started to have all those problems and people are like, why is Liquid not performing? Like, why is it? Because I don't think they had that person back then that could like dig them out of that. This is when like obviously Peacemaker and stuff was the coach. Zeus had come in the team. I think Zeus could serve that purpose. Like, dude, he could like lift the spirits and call like a strat at the same time. Like, I don't understand. This guy's like hilarious. But and then now they have like someone like Taco that could do it, and before they had like Steel that could do it. I think that person that can do that is really important, and maybe that's honestly what it's like SK. Who's on SK that would do that now?
Honestly, I always felt like Taco was pretty lighthearted and like very jovial. I don't know how exactly he is in the game, but in person he's super lighthearted and a really nice guy. Coldzera is obviously super serious, and I get the serious vibe also from Fallen. So it's
and Bolts obviously doesn't really seem like that person. Stewie's definitely not that person when it comes to like super competitive games. So, and maybe I don't know, maybe cracks some jokes. Yeah. But I think that's like honestly a super important aspect, like keeping the team like morale and spirit high. Because I think when you're upset, and you're easier to be upset when someone else is like has a lot of negative tones in their voice, like it'll make you subconsciously like a little bit irritated. You're a lot less likely to do things the right way and like think with a clear head.
Yep.
So I think that's important.
It's I always go back to I really feel like there's so much that's comparable with poker. I know you're an avid poker player, or you were at least at some point, right? I think in the past.
Yeah, I used to play poker all the time. Now, not really so much.
One thing I think here, which is really interesting, is that people have, like in poker, people have a pretty inherent, latent emotional attachment to money. So when if you're looking at it from a professional standpoint, you're really applying a strategy that you've come up with over 100, 200, 300,000 hands. That's like your sample size. That's like a small sample size in poker. But because you could be having a couple days where you're not feeling so great, and the last week you're on a massive downswing, you've been keeping to your strategy, but it's really starting to grind on you. You'll actually start to start to distract yourself from that game plan, and you'll start to play tighter subconsciously because of that attachment to money. And it does not feel good to lose money. You're not like you become not in this right frame of mind, and your brain starts to sort of rationalize the situation a little bit. And I think it's very similar in Counter-Strike, and I think it's super similar because, like your example earlier in the episode, I think very early on with Config and him dying to Cirque and it looking sloppy. The way that you presented that, actually, Config did something that is not really a bad decision. Like the sort of the risk reward was pretty fine, but you can have 5 or 6 times in a row where you make a play, and that can happen in Counter-Strike. It doesn't mean you're making the wrong decisions, unless you want to be outcome oriented. But we know that's not sort of good faith analysis to think about it that way. So it's from that perspective, if you take that into mind, I think it's so important, and you definitely do see players get on each other's backs because stuff isn't going right, and it adds a lot of pressure when there's already so much pressure. So it's that sort of emotional intelligence or social intelligence aspect of the game with how players interrelate seems to be another hugely sort of intangible thing that no one discusses too much, except when we see the shuffles, or instead, when we hear about players beefing with one another or something's going on behind the scenes. But as far as actually how people respond in the game, it seems to be very hidden. And is this just an unavoidable nightmare that you can never really know, and you can only really pick based on the merit of someone's mechanical skill or their intelligence, their game sense?
Yeah, right. Like, I don't know. It's hard when you like compose a team and you don't really know, I feel like, right?
Like, let's say simple on flip side, way back when maybe the only guy on the team that he respected or listened to, if not Blade, was, Markelov. And it was very clear that because of, Simple in the early days, he threw off the team completely and what they were trying to do. But at the same time, he was getting them, as you were saying, he was getting them the wins that they wanted. But it maybe in the long term was harming the team. Like how do you make a decision there? The guy, obviously, the guy's making life hellish for everyone on the team, but you're getting results better than you would get if you kicked him. So what do you do there?
I keep the player. Right. I mean, I'm not gonna. So I have like an instance where this happened in one of the teams I've been on, and I kept the player, and I didn't regret it. So, my theory on that is Michael Jordan's teammates did not like Michael Jordan as a player, but they put up with his shit because they wanted to win. Michael Jordan was an asshole. He fucking treated his teammates like shit, and he treated a lot of people around him like shit. But he's a fucking winner, right? And when he went out there, he did what was necessary to win, right? So I don't know. That's my theory on that whole thing. But I understand why people have the other side to it. I think if that person starts being super confrontational about one or two people on the team, it is on the team's it's on the team's hands to make sure that the person that he has a problem with is aware of that problem, and maybe literally have the person that if Simple had a problem with Markov, I don't think he ever did. I don't even know. I literally don't even know. I'm just it's throwing two people out there. So it would be on Markelov to go to Simple and be yo, what's the problem, man? And Simple says the problem, and he's yo, you're not putting enough time in the game, blah, blah, blah. And it's literally on Markelov at that point to be okay, I'm putting way more time in the game. And I'm not even saying this ever happened. I feel there's a fucking rumor that starts happening. But,
just hypothetical.
Yeah, but I think I would rather keep that player and just be yo, you have to listen to whatever this guy has to tell you. But then it does have to be a certain point where you draw a line in the sand where you say that player's I want to fucking restructure the whole entire lineup. Fuck this. We're cutting all 4 people and I'm bringing in these guys you've never heard of. And, you're just no, you're not. You're not doing any of that, actually. You're just sitting here and you're playing for us, and we're going to win championships, and this is how we're going to do it. I'll give you your freedoms in game, but that's where it stops. Like, we're not doing any of that other shit though. Like, it is like a fine line. Like, you can't give that person everything that they want, but at the same time, I think that keeping that person in the team is super important.
Yeah, it's always going to be very interesting and I guess very case by case. But man, there's so much stuff that I really want to talk to you about still. So I feel like another episode in the future is very warranted. But I don't want to keep you for longer than the time that I promised you for, which is 90 minutes, and we're almost there. So as sort of a closing discussion point, what are the most important lessons that you've learned along the way in your many, many years of experience as an in-game leader?
Ooh, important lessons.
Yeah, it could be like one or two revelations, anything that really sort of stands out, that like a moment where something clicks and really sort of helps you to progress.
I think the most important thing that I learned from in-game leading happened somewhere in between like Cloud9 and Echo Fox, when I learned how to communicate with players way more efficiently than what I once did. I learned that I can't be super direct with everyone. Like, I can't, because I'm one of those people that I feel like a robot sometimes. Like, well, at least I used to. Like, I would see stuff wrong and be like, yo, you're doing that wrong, man. Like, this is what you should be doing, blah, blah, blah. And I just say it very matter of factly. But people get very emotional when you start doing stuff like that. Like, there's certain people that don't like that. Like, they especially because you're telling them that, like, you're correcting them in front of 3 other people, potentially 4 if you have a coach. So learning how to communicate, with every team has like a silent person or 2 on their team, just because we play in esports, man. Like, no one's going to be on a team where like 5 dudes are at the fucking bar and like they're just cracking it. Like, no, that team doesn't exist. I feel like there's a quiet person on the team that doesn't talk as much. And that's probably the person that you're going to need to like message individually. You're gonna have to remember, like, you're gonna have to write down notes or something like to remind yourself of like the mistakes. You're gonna have to have proof of it. So maybe you're gonna have to like record demos, or maybe you have to have your coach also in on the note session or something like that. You have to go over it with that person later, like one-on-one, like not calling them out with the team, just being like, yeah, this is what you did, man. Like, and just like vibe with them on a different level than the other people. Cause I had teammates like Freakazoid and Nothing where dude, we would like be yelling at each other for 30 seconds about a mistake. The next round start, it was like both of us forgot and we're just moving on. We come to a really quick solution and we move on. It's just like, but there's certain players that you just can't do that with. And I think that's the most important thing I learned, like maturing as an in-game leader, is that aspect, is that you can't always be a dick, but you definitely can't be a pushover. Like, you can't just let people get away with everything, so, because it is hard to sometimes communicate with people that shut down at all. Like, sometimes you want to feel like, damn, I don't even want to like tell this person this because they might hold it over me for the next 3 weeks. Like, this, it's going to be hard to bring this up. So you have to like find the correct ways to communicate with those people, because it's not like anything against them. It's just some people take things a little bit more emotionally. That's fine. But I think that's the most important thing.
So to be a leader of men as opposed to just an in-game leader, perhaps. Definitely another point that is not discussed enough, sort of that social component, the social intelligence and so on, and something that I would definitely love to talk about more. But again, I very, very aware of the time we spent here, and it's been awesome. So it's time to bring the discussion to a close for now. So thank you, Sean, so much for completing podcast number 1 for me. I don't have a working title yet. I don't know what I'll call it, but thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thanks. This was actually really cool. Sorry if I rambled a lot. I looked at our list. I feel like we didn't even get like halfway through. It's like, God damn it, I must have talked for a long time.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Absolutely. Like I said, if you want to do it, I'm definitely down. We can get through the list and even add some stuff to it. There's definitely a lot of really cool stuff that we can talk about still. But yeah, that'll be that for this episode. See you in the next one. Okay. Nice.